Okay, welcome back. Not too long ago, we just finished with Act 3, Scene 4. We're about to enter into Act 3, Scene 5. And this scene is back again in from Venice. We go back to no, we were there in Belmont. Yeah, last scene we were there in Belmont, and again we go back. We continue this portion there in Belmont itself. All right. So in the last in the last scene, we just concluded with Portia leaving her residence in a carriage along with Nerissa, and she has left the charge of the house in the hands of Lorenzo. That I hope you remember, and you should be remembering Jessica and Lorenzo as mistress and the master of the house till she returns, and along with Bassanio. Bassanio also returns back from Venice. So naturally, she is off the scene. Now, when she is off the scene, what is happening in Belmont? A continuation of these two scenes in Belmont itself, but also ensuring at the same time that Portia has left. All this while we talked about Belmont in association with, with references to Portia. Right now, Portia is not there. So what's happening there, right? So you have a garden scene, and this why I've changed my background as well. I can't put a garden out there, so I've got a green background for you, so that you just remember. Yes, I was there with a background, green background. It's a garden scene in case there's a particular question on it, and you remember exactly the setting of the scene. So it's a garden scene, and in one particular corner of the garden on the stage, you see Jessica seated there, and along with her in certain other posture, you have maybe kneeling down or maybe standing with hands folded, or you have Lancelot there. And I was really wondering, what is Lancelot doing out here? But then you could remember, you could very well, you can very well reflect back and see that Lancelot was already inducted into the system, into Bassanio's service. And when Bassanio was coming, he was coming along with Gratiano, obviously, but then he must be coming with some other people as well, his, attendant or whatever. So maybe Lancelot might have been taken, because we are not given a very clear picture. So don't be very surprised. How does Lancelot come over here? What is he doing out here in the garden along with Jessica and Lorenzo? So naturally, when Bassanio is going back again, and he has intention to come back to Belmont, there's no need to take Lancelot along. So he has perhaps left Lancelot there in the house itself at Belmont. So in that garden, you see Lancelot and you see Jessica talking to each other, and this is just an extension of the dramatic irony that I mentioned in the previous scene, where you find the scene is in a very light vein. The way Portia describes her plan, puts in a lot of, distracts you from the seriousness that is about to take place concerning the court scene, concerning Antonio and Shylock and the pound of flesh. So this is just an extension of that dramatic irony, if you look at it from that point of view. So let's see what Lancelot has to say. What are they talking? What could Lancelot and Jessica? But anyway, you know it very well that Lancelot and Jessica, they know each other really well, because Lancelot has been working for Jessica's father, Shylock, prior to joining Bassanio. So it's not something unusual why they're talking. Yeah, whatever I have explained to you regarding Lancelot availability over there, his presence over there has to be assumed that this is there. There's no such real backing, textual reference where you get to know that Lancelot had gone over there. The textual reference which tells you that Lancelot had gone there is this, where you get to know that yes, Lancelot is there. That means he has come along with Bassanio at that point of time. So Lancelot is speaking to Jessica, and what does he has to say? If you think about Lancelot, you're going to go back. Where do you go back? You go to Act 2, Scene 2, where you meet this typical character called Lancelot, who is into a conflict with his soul. He himself is there, and the devil and the soul is having a fight with each other. and he presents that entire conflict before the audience, and then thereafter he plays tricks with his own father. His father plays back a trick upon him, not quite intentionally though, but then yes, it does happen. So a lot of humor around there. And then you must not forget definitely that he has a typical habit, both father and son, they have a typical habit of using confusing words, using words with similar sounds, and confusing with the meaning, which I told you that is known as malapropism, a kind of tool that is used, and you would use that and you'll find it used in plenty of other plays as well, apart from Shakespeare. So that used as a tool, as just to spark humor at times. Most often, you'll find it, used as creating humor. So let's see what Lancelot has to say, and whether he still maintains that typical characteristics that he had been known for, or we have associated him with, at the beginning of the play. So Lancelot said, "Yes, truly, you look." So perhaps it tells you that the conversation picks up at a particular point of time, because it picks up from the middle. You don't understand. Yes, he's responding to Jessica. So Jessica might have asked something, and then he's responding to that, and then this is what he has. So yes, truly, for look you, the sins of the father are to be laid upon the children. Therefore, I promise you, I fear you. What does he say? He says, the sins of the father are to be laid upon the children. Now, when he says this, you have to understand from a Christian perspective, you have to understand from the point of view of the Bible, he was basically referring to the Old Testament. He was referring to the Old Testament, the second book of the Old Testament. The first one is Genesis, which talks about the creation of the entire universe, right? So you have Genesis followed by Exodus, Exodus. Exodus chapter number 20, verse number 5, where God happens to say, God is saying in the Bible, I am not authenticating the verses. I'm just dictating it as it is there in the Bible. Right, so don't take it that way, because and then of course the edition also matters. I'm referring to possibly the international version of the Bible, the Old Testament. So yes, truly, for look you the sins. Basically, this verse number 20, chapter number 20, verse number 5 of Exodus talks about a particular point. It is talking about worshiping. It is talking about worshiping of the people, and worshiping of images, worshiping of idol. So idolatry. So basically, God is saying that I am a God who is a jealous God. Now, this statement is a little bit confusing. Jealous God means I cannot tolerate you having another God, you worshiping an idol, you worshiping some kind of an image. So that way God is saying that I'm a jealous God. I cannot tolerate that. I cannot let you do that. And you know it very well. You can't, even that is a fundamental part of our iman. Right? And you cannot have a parallel drawn to God. So when you do idolatry, when you worship images, you are basically drawing a parallel to God, and God doesn't like this. It's a sin, right? So God doesn't like this at all. So that is what he's trying to say, that God is a jealous God. And not only that, the latter part of it, he says that I am going to, he says basically that I'm a jealous God, visiting on the iniquity of the fathers upon the child. Means if a parent commits the sin of drawing a parallel to God, commits the sin of idolatry, worship, right? His children, or his or her children, your father has been mentioned over here, so parents basically, children will also be penalized for it, because they are a part of this parent. That's what the explanation says. I was just trying to refer to the explanation. What does, because I honestly got a little confused. How can God say like this? I'm a jealous God. So I looked into the explanation, and this is what the explanation comes in as. And then elaborating it further, it is said in the explanation that if a child follows the footsteps of the father, then definitely the punishment that the father is supposed to meet is going to pass on to the children as well. So basically, in brief, what is said in the Bible is that a God does not tolerate someone drawing parallel to him. And if that is so done by a person, it calls for a punishment. And that punishment could pass on to the children as well if they follow their parents' footsteps or their father's footsteps. So, what is Lancelot trying to say? Lancelot is just trying, he may not be very serious. He's trying to really spark some humor, make the moment light, or get into an unnecessary quarrel with Jessica. I'm so sorry, just having some hiccups. Sorry. So what is he trying to say? He's trying to say that your father is a Jew, as in is a non-believer, and that way he deserves punishment. You being a daughter, your father's sin would be laid down upon you, means you also deserve punishment. And he says, I promise you I fear. But he doesn't mean to say, I promise you, I can tell you, I can ensure you that I'm apprehensive. I am apprehensive. What is he apprehensive about? I have a fear. What is the fear? I was always plain with you, and so now I speak my agitation of the matter. Therein comes, we underline the word agitation or circle. He actually means cogitation, not agitation. Agitation, he means you protest, you agitate. He doesn't mean to say that. He means to say cogitations. Cogitation, Cogitation. Right? That's important because you need to keep that in mind. And maybe that's also given as a part of your annotation in the book, so you may refer to that as well. But to please underline that so that you keep that in mind. Where does the malapropism come into picture? So he says that I've always been plain and simple. I've always been straightforward. You know me very well, Jessica. So even now, I speak my agitation of the matter if I have to share my thoughts. So he means not agitation, cogitation, which means thoughts. So I want to express my thoughts on this matter. And what is it? Therefore, be of good cheer. You may enjoy yourself, but truly, let me tell you, I think you are damned. I think you're damned means I think you are gone. You're gone in terms you are fated to meet hell. Means you have a punishment waiting for you in hell. And that is what I feel. So it's putting it in a very simple terms. Lanza said that, since your father is a Jew, non-believer, you, a daughter, there are I'm almost certain that you're going to get punishment and there's hell waiting for you. Look at what Jessica responds. Jessica says, I shall be saved by my husband. He hath made me a Christian. Now, Jessica says, and of course uses the Bible again, where Lancelot was referring to the Old Testament. Perhaps Jessica is referring to the New Testament. The New Testament of the Bible, you have a book called, First Corinthians. There are 2 Corinthians. First Corinthians and the Second Corinthians. So she's perhaps referring to First Corinthians. You might see that in your annotation as well, but she was referring to First Corinthians chapter number 7, verse number 14. And in this chapter number 7, verse number 14, it is being said that a wife who is a non-believer could still be purged, could still be purified by the husband. So possibly she was referring to that because, and then she says that, I'm a converted now. I am a convert. My husband has converted me into a Christian. So I have a hope that I'll have salvation. I'll be saved. So your reference is correct, Lancelot, but you are forgetting perhaps that I am no longer an unbeliever. I'm not following the footsteps of my father, as you had said, as you were referring to Exodus chapter number 20, verse number 4. Verse number 5. She is not basically referring to all these things. This you have to keep it in the background. What is happening? You have to basically talk in terms of the context. If there is a question that way, what is he trying to refer? What reference is being made over here? What important reference is being made? Then, of course, you will look at the options, whether it talks about the Bible or something like that. Otherwise, you will be talking in the context. So, Jessica says, I'm going to save, I'll be saved. Also says, truly, the more to blame he. And he says, oh, yeah, you're right. So he has actually converted you to Christianity, but let me tell you, I'm supposed to, he's supposed to get all the blames. And what is he trying to blame him for? He says, see, we were, so sorry, let me just, yeah, I'm checking this. Yes, we were Christians enough before. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this point here. Yeah, I'm reading out here. So he says Christians enough before. We were Christians. We already have sufficient population of the Christians out here in Venice, or in Belmont, or in Italy as a whole. Even as many as could well live one by another. And we have so much of population within which we have the male and the females. If all male and female marry each other, the population is sufficient. But, Lorenzo, he chose you and from outside the community. So what have he done basically? What has he done? This making of Christians will raise the price of hogs. If we all grow to be pork eaters, we shall not shortly have a rasher on the coals for money. What is he saying? Funny, and he's stressed. And I told you the scene is in a very light vein, just you put it as a contrast to something serious that is about to happen. And I'm reiterating in the word again and again in dramatic irony, use of dramatic irony out here to basically heighten the impact of the tragic scene that is about to come. And that way, you also, the suspense is also kept in, because the longer this prolongs, the more sudden that seriousness comes in, and that is where the impact of a tragic event is heightened. You don't see that distinct because it's a romantic play, it's a romance, but it is more distinctly seen and felt and observed in Shakespeare's tragedies. This making of Christian will raise the price of hearts. When he says, see, this way, if everyone goes on marrying someone from the other community and then the Christians are being converted, what is going to happen? The price of hearts is going to be the price of pork. The price of Christians, they are pork eaters, whereas Jews, they are not, right? So that is what he's saying, that if the population is more, the population increases, then the demand for pork is going to increase. And when the demand increases, very well, as some of you might have commercial application, you know it very well, when the demand is high, what happens? The price is also high. The price is hiked. When the demand is very less, the price may, that's the time when you have season discount and, off-season discount and other things coming into picture. You know it very well. Even if you are not studying commercial applications, you know business more than perhaps me. So this making of Christian will raise the price of hogs. If we all grow to be pork eaters, if everyone over here in Italy grows to be a pork eaters, we shall not have shortly a rasher on the coals for money. We will not even have a small piece of meat, small piece of pork on our coals to get it roasted for money. Even if we have money, perhaps the demand will be so much that it will exhaust the entire resource of the pork, and we will not have a small piece of meat as well after paying money for it. So he's looking from the other side of it, so you can understand the humor there. Jessica says, I'll tell my husband, Lancelot, what you say. Here he comes. And in the meantime, she realizes that Lorenzo is coming and says, I'm going to complain against you. I'm going to tell my husband what rubbish you have been speaking, and you have been into quarreling and arguing on matters, which are weird, abstract. So there comes in Lorenzo, and Lorenzo, I shall grow. Then Lorenzo sees that scene, that a particular corner where Lancelot is there sitting or kneeling down, and then Jessica is standing out, also sitting out there. Perhaps they're talking. So you can understand the scene as perceived by Lorenzo. So he says, I shall grow jealous of you shortly, Lancelot, if you, just hold on, I think, yeah, I think this is better. Yeah, okay, fine. So I shall grow jealous of you shortly, Lancelot, if you thus get my wife into corners. So this way, if you sit with my wife, this way, if you are in a corner, I would get jealous as a husband. Jessica says, nay, you need not fear us. Jessica says, no, you don't need to be afraid of this. You don't need to fear this by Lorenzo. Lancelot and I are out. Lancelot and I are not on good terms anymore. We are having quarrel. We are fighting. He tells me flatly, without any concern, there is no mercy for me in heaven because I'm a Jew's daughter. That's what he has said, right? So I am sure you are damned. Plain and simply speaking. So that's why she says that flatly. He tells me straightforward that there is no mercy for me in heaven because I'm a Jew's daughter. And he says, you are not a good member of the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth over here stands for the Christian community, the Christians, right? Commonwealth. Commonwealth, you have Commonwealth Games, and there are certain countries that make it together, the European nation, right? With UK and all, make a Commonwealth. So good member of the Commonwealth. Over here, Commonwealth would mean the Christian communities. It says you are not a good Christian. Why? Because you're converting the Jews to Christians. And in doing this, you are basically raising the price of the pork. And this is something that is not good. And that's why you're not a good member. You're not a very conscious member of this Commonwealth. So she presents it as if he has done some crime and he's Jessica takes this and complains it to a senior person who's going to take an action, just as you complain against one of your friends to the teacher after she walks into the class, and all those things thereafter, right? So childish, you find it very childish here, and that is the nature of this entire scene over here. So Lorenzo says, but Lorenzo does not elaborate this or get into any further discussions. He simply says, because that is, Lancelot cannot be taken into such personal discussions anymore. So that light moment is called off to an end by Lorenzo, and he says, go in, Sarah, bid them prepare for dinner. You fellow, go there, get inside, and bid them prepare for dinner. Ask people to prepare for dinner because we're going to have food. We are hungry perhaps. And look at what Lancelot has learned. Lancelot says, that is done, sir. They all have stomachs. He's not a very easy guy who will just listen to you and then he'll just be following. So he'll always make situations, really very, very interesting. And this is how he makes it. He says, you're asking me to go and ask them to prepare dinner. That is done, sir. Dinner is already prepared. And they all have stomachs. Now, what does he mean by this? He says that I don't need to go and tell them prepare dinner because we all have stomachs. Here he means that they, whom you're asking me to go and tell to prepare dinner, they already have a stomach, means they're ready to eat. Having a stomach is the fundamental thing in eating something. If you do not have a stomach, perhaps you might not be eating. So that is what he is saying, but he actually means that the dinner is already ready. But then he uses the stomach to confuse and create, again a fuss about nothing. He says they have all stomachs. That means they have stomach, they have appetite. So double meaning again. He means appetite, but stomachs, as a fundamental, factor. So having a stomach, having appetite. So if you have the appetite, means you are ready to eat. If you do not have the appetite, you are not ready to eat. Got my point? But then that could be maybe very simple when I explain it to you. But if you're someone listening to Lancelot, you would get lost for a while. And that's what actually happens. Where it says, good Lord, what a witch snapper you are. What a witch snapper, underline that word, the hyphenated word, witch snapper. Witch snapper means here, a comedian. What a comedian you are. Then bid them prepare dinner. Okay, right? So if they already have stomachs, then at least get the dinner ready so that we can all come and eat. Lancelot said, that is done too, sir. That is also done. The dinner is also prepared. The dinner is also prepared. Only cover is the word. Only cover is the word. Cover means lay. Lay the table. You need to lay the table, then serve the food that you have prepared, and then you can sit down and eat. So he says only cover is there. So appetite is there in place, means they are mentally prepared. They are prepared. They're hungry to eat. Then there's the dinner is already prepared. Cover is the only word left. If you ask me to cover, I'll go and just lay the table and then Lorenzo says, will you cover then, sir? Will you cover then, sir? So why don't you go and cover, sir? And Lancelot to that, he responds, not so, sir, neither. No, I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I know my duty. Again, he intentionally reads the word cover to mean something else. Cover means over here in the previous remark from Lancelot, cover means to lay the table. Cover also means it was a tradition among the English, the Elizabethan society, when they sat to eat, they covered their head. Right? So he takes both the meaning together. He means that I'm going to lay the table. That is the only thing that is left. But when Lorenzo says cover, then he says, no, I cannot cover also. Why? Because I know my duty. Means you are asking me to cover. How can I put my hat in front of someone who is my master? You are supposed to be the master of the house. And it is a disrespect if I cover my head in front of my master. I need to take off, as per the tradition, I need to take off my hat because I'm junior to you or I'm your servant. So I cannot cover. I know my duty. See, you cannot ask me to cover. Lorenzo says, yet more quarreling on that. Oh, this continues, and it seems there's no end to that. Will thou show the whole wealth of thy wit in an instant? Are you going to show me the entire wit that you have in this moment? I pray thee, I request you. Now he's a little annoyed, possibly a little angry, suppressing, and then in that suppression, he says, what does he say? He says, I pray thee, I request you. Let me just put it in the right place so that he can exactly see that. Yes, I pray thee, understand a plain man in his plain meaning. And I'm a man of simple letters. You say that. No, I'm a man of simple letters. Please understand me in simple terms. Go to thy fellows. Their fellows, people inside who are the other servants. Ask them to lay the table, right? So go to thy fellows. Bid them, command them, cover the table, lay the table. Serve the meat, serve the food that is prepared for dinner, and we will come into dinner. Look at how Lancelot puts the entire thing again, and after doing that he makes an exit because perhaps anything could have happened after this. For the table, sir, it shall be served in. The table will be served. Look at again, follow that because that's important how he plays, and that sparks humor. Bid them cover the table, serve the meat, and we will come into dinner. He says, for the table, sir, it shall be served. The table will be served. For the meat, sir, it shall be covered. The meat will be covered. He basically swaps the use of serve and cover intentionally, of course, meaning the same. Means I've understood whatever you have asked. I'm going to lay the table, I'm going to serve in the meat as well, but he intentionally swaps just to have a little more of fun and play with the words, play with the situation. But again, this time it could anger Lorenzo further. He says, for your coming to dinner, and as you said that you're going to come and have dinner, sir, why? Let it be to the humors and conceit shall govern. Let it be as per your wish. I'm going inside, I'm going to serve the table, I'm going to serve in the meat over there, I'm going to keep everything ready. As for you coming and having it, let it be to your own discretion, to your own judgment, to your own whims and dislikes. Having said that, without waiting for Lorenzo's response, he makes an exit because he knows what he has done is really going to annoy Lorenzo if he stays further. Anyway, that episode is again over. Ivan Lorenzo, oh dear discretion, how his words are suited. Oh dear discretion. How distinctly, how does he suit the situation? How much of a stock of words that he has to suit the situations? How does he distinctly use words with different meanings in a situation? So he's, oh dear discretion, it's an exclamation, basically an exclamation, of course, over here again in another way, an appreciation as well. Yes, he was frustrated, he could be a little annoyed, but then he appreciates as well because he could use anything to make any situation lie. And that's what he has done. The fool had planted, he says that the fool had planted, this fool over here. Who is fool? The fool means Lancelot over here. The fool hath planted in his memory an army of good words. He's got a good stock of words in his memory. And I do know many fools that stand in better place, garnish like him, that for a tricksy word defy the matter, right? And I know there are fools here fools like him who can defy the matter, who can, reject any matter, or, dissolve any matter with the use of their words, tricksy words. So I know these people and the worth of these people are important. And he is one such person who has got a stock of such good words. I do know a many fools that stand in better place, garnished like him, that for a tricksy word defy the matter. How cheers. In any way, let's forget about it. How cheers thou, Jessica? And now, good sweet, say thy opinion. How does thy like the Lord Bassanio's wife? Right. And again, he seems to be, even Lorenzo seems to be highly impressed by Portia. And that's the reason, after, just asking Jessica how she doing and whether she's enjoying her time there, he draws Jessica to comment upon Bassanio's wife. Jessica says, past all expressing. And this is important for you because this is characterization again. You had Lorenzo describing Portia on her face in Act 3. Scene 3 we read, right? Scene 4, in fact, the beginning, not Scene 3. Scene 4, the beginning part of it, we saw. And how she controls herself and says that just near to my praising and all. You know it very well. This time it is Jessica. He wants to get an opinion from Jessica. Jessica says, past all expressing. Is beyond all expression. Means I cannot describe her in words. It is very meet that Lord Bassanio live an upright life. And this is something, that we pray when you have a good person, when you have a gentle person, whether it's a gentleman or a lady, you always have as a blessing, may you have a very good wife, may you have a very good husband, right? And this is what Jessica does. She's so sweet, Portia is so good that it is most appropriate for Bassanio to lead an upright life. Upright, again, a very broad term. It's not a very specific term where I could tell you it means to be a good person. Upright means right in everything. Whatever you do, you are always up. You're never down. You always have a thumbs up. You always have something that is good, right? For having such a blessing in this lady, he finds the joys of heaven here on earth. And that's a fact. That is a fact of life on this earth. We had been talking about this relationship of two people, of couples, of husband and wife. And I have been telling you that this is something really, really important. And that's the reason where you find I was discussing about Portia. She, as a very conscious, a very responsible lady, takes the initiative to lay a very humble ground, a very rigid, strong foundation for this relationship to flourish. And look at what Jessica has to say here. Jessica says, for having such a blessing, she is a blessing. She's a blessing as a lady. If you have this lady as your life partner, you have had a blessing for a lifetime. Right? And he says he finds the joy of heaven on earth. And if you can really have a wonderful relationship in life, you have this relationship as, one of the most, cherished relationship in your life, you are living a life in heaven. When you talk about life in heaven, you always talk of Adam and Eve. They led a wonderful life in heaven, right? Until that sin had to happen. Right? Whatever, you know the entire story of it. But then if a person lives, that means, no matter what you construct about heaven, when we were children, we were there in school, we always had this song, heaven is a wonderful place, filled with beauty and grace. We had this song we sang about. So, and you have in Urdu, the poets have said, it's nothing, it's just to pacify ourselves. I think I remember Ghalib's couplet where he says that, it's just to satisfy ourselves that heaven is a wonderful place. which is actually not or may not be, because nobody has seen it. It's just the assumptions and, of course, the glimpses of that heaven, as mentioned in the Holy Quran. That is definitely there. So he says that, but before you actually go to realize that life in heaven, you could still make an attempt to enjoy that life here on earth. And that is something which is very important. Even today, the whole world seems to be troubled with climate change and, environmentalists all everywhere, trying to protect the environment, trying to save the ecosystem, wildlife protection and environment protection, ozone layer, plenty of things around you. If you look at it, there are so many things happening. Why it is preserving it? Because God has made this world really, really beautiful. And if you don't feel it, if you don't realize it, you just walk out of your own boundaries and go and visit places on earth. I'm not a very good traveler. I haven't traveled across the globe, but I have seen through the eyes of the people who have traveled, had met them, they simply come with an awe that earth is so beautiful. It's so beautiful, right? So in order to really excite your eyes, your senses, you could have a wonderful life on earth as well. It can be imagined at least, and when you imagine that, life will be beautiful. For here, in this context, obviously, he finds the joys of heaven here on earth in this lady. So if you have this relationship on earth as a very blissful relationship, you would have the pleasures of heaven on this earth, is what an assurance coming in from Jessica. And if on earth he do not mean it, and if on earth, if he does not respect this relationship, if he does not give importance to this relationship, if he does not value Portia, if he does not value the relationship, if he does not value her presence in his life, then in reason, there's every reason, there's an argument, he should never come to heaven. Look at Jessica's conviction. And in what language, in what manner, in what proportion she is praising Portia. Portia is so good. She's so good that she could give a blissful life to a person like Bassanio. And that's what makes Jessica feel that Bassanio should lead an upright life. In order to enjoy the pleasures, in order to enjoy the beauty, in order to enjoy the blessing in this lady, in the form of this lady. And if he doesn't respect this, if he does not value this, I think he shouldn't come to heaven. He does not deserve the pleasures of heaven, because this is no less than a pleasure in heaven. Beautiful, amazing. Look at how the choice of word and the sentences and the statements be starting with past, all expressing. Full stop. It is very neat that Lord Bassanio live an upright life. For having such a blessing in this lady, he finds the joy of heaven here on earth. And if on earth, if he does not mean it, if he does not value it, then in reason he should not come to heaven. Why? If two gods should play some heavenly match. And then she compares. Then she compares Portia's worth as a lady to any other lady. He says, if two gods should play some heavenly match, if there's a competition among the gods, if they play some game and they put bet upon someone, they put a pawn, right? And on the wager, as a bet, the two on the wager lay two earthly women, and Portia won. There must be something else pawned with the other, for the poor rude world hath not her fellow. What he says? He says that both the gods, she imagines this. It's a hypothesis. Okay, she imagines this, that if two gods were to play a match together and they put a woman as bet, if one of the gods puts Portia as on bet, as a pawn, P-A-W-N, right, as a pawn, If Portia is put as a pawn, the other god also must put something very similar. So he also would put a woman there. But let me tell you, this god will have to put something else in addition to this woman. Why? Because as far as my estimation is concerned, you do not have a parallel to Portia. Portia is one and only one. You do not have a parallel. You can't have a similar match of this lady. She's so high in my estimation. Now, what led her to, you could ask, you could debate on that. What is she trying to do? How does she come to know so much? Whatever it is, you may take it at your own level to analyze this and, come to a conclusion, arrive at a conclusion. I'm not going to give you a conclusion as well. I may have my own. Yeah, obviously it is. Sometimes, sometimes in life, if you ask my opinion, I can definitely tell you, sometimes in life, one moment is enough to know a person. And sometimes in life, you spend years with a person and still you don't know anything about the person. That could be true. Right. Let me tell you, I was a part of a discussion on mentoring the millennials. Mentoring you. You are the millennials, right? The Gen X. Okay. Representing the 21st century youth. So mentoring, how do you mentor these millennials in this century, where you had where you had this cricket commentator, very popular one, as one of the guests, and you had another professor who is now the vice chancellor of Jadavpur University. So I was a part of this discussion. I'm just trying to check so that I can give you the facts. Cricket commentator, and just looking at yes. I'm so sorry. I'm just taking a little bit of time here. Okay, you have this. I think I am not able to really help you with the names, but perhaps I'll tell you sometime later. Yeah, Harsha Bogle. Yeah, sorry, I'm so sorry. How could I forget this name? Harsha Bogle, one of the most popular, commentators in present terms, cricket commentary, and he speaks really well. His analytics are really, really good. Analysis, match analysis, game analysis. I really like it, and he speaks good English as well. So he was there, and I also took a selfie. I was not good at taking selfies. It's a horrible picture. I couldn't share it with you, but I did happen to meet him. But then in that meeting, I spent more time with this professor from Jadavpur University. He's a professor in comparative literature, right? Comparative literature. He's now the vice chancellor. Just I think 3 months back, he was made the vice chancellor of Jadavpur University. I spent more time with him, and more time in the sense means in a conference, in a discussion, how much time would you spend? But my time with him, while I was eating also, I was talking to him, I could know a lot about him. And you won't believe, he considers me a friend even today. When he was made the vice chancellor, I just had to congratulate him and tell him that perhaps now I'll have my access limited to you because you're now a vice chancellor of Jadavpur University. And he said, thank you so much for your wishes, for your best wishes, and your access is saved, means you can still have an access to me as you had it in the past, so it does not impact our relationship at all. So now that is it. I mean, whenever I'm about to speak about it in terms of, I could make out how he teaches. He has not been my teacher. I've never attended his class, but I could make out how he must be teaching in class, what sort of assignments he might be giving, how the students might be taking him. So sometimes in life, you do have a moment spent with someone that helps you to know a lot about this person. Something definitely happened in our discussion, the time that we spent there in that discussion, in that conference, which I had attended. So this could also be something like for Jessica as well. So if you take my opinion, this is what it is, but you can arrive at your own conclusions as to why or what led Jessica to really, speak about Portia in such high flown words. So Lorenzo says, even such a husband has thou of me as she is for a wife. Again, a moment, lightened, as has been the case with the entire scene right from the beginning. Lorenzo says, oh yeah, you're praising Portia, but I think you should also praise me, because I'm almost, as a husband, I am same as Portia is as a wife. So if you have this, praise for Portia as a wife, you will have similar praises for me as a husband. That means I'm also very good, and I don't have a parallel as a husband. He's saying, in a very light way. He is not very serious about it. And Jessica says, "Nay, but ask my opinion to that of that." That means of course, you might be, but you need to take my opinion. I need to give you an opinion. You just can't put yourself or, emphasize upon yourself and, really declare yourself as one of the best person. You take my opinion. Lorenzo says, I will, Anand, first let us go to the dinner. Yeah, I will definitely take your opinion, but let us first go to the dinner. We need to have food. Jessica says, nay, let me praise you while I have the stomach. And says, but no, I have an intention to praise you right now. So hear me now when I have a stomach, when I am hungry to really praise you, right? Lorenzo says, no, pray thee, let it serve for the table talk. But no, I request you, don't give me your opinion right now. Let's go to the table. Let's sit over there. And then howsoever thou speakest, among other things, I shall digest it. And he is actually apprehensive. I don't know what Jessica is going to say. Maybe it's not a praise, or maybe it does not please me at all. So, in a very light vein, he's not serious about anything that he's saying. Let's get inside. Let's sit. While I'm eating, you can give your opinion. So at that time, even if I do not like what you are saying, I will digest whatever you say along with other things which I am eating. Right. So in a very humorous way, the scene comes to an end. Jessica says, well, I'll set you forth. Let's go and have our dinner. And with this, we come to the end of this scene as well. And this completes your entire act 3. It's just I don't think so very long, being a short video there, concluding Act 3 Scene 4, and this one as Act 3 Scene 4. I have gone through line by line. I have tried to focus on as many words, as many sentences, as many annotations that I could bring before you to help you understand the context, help you understand the text well, so that you do not face any problem while reading questions and trying to analyze, trying to fall back upon what is being said in the what is said in the play, what the story is all about, and what is happening, what are the character developments. I've talked about all of this. Now it's your responsibility to listen to it very carefully. Listen to it. If you can follow it line by line from the book, it would add more meaning to you.